You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, we've got a huge case working its way through the courts right now that will have major implications against Elon Musk and Donald Trump. In a motion, I'm going to read, this is from ABC News, I'm going to put it right here on the screen. In a motion filed Friday, they asked Judge Chutkan to immediately block Musk from altering the funding for any agency, from placing any employees on leave, from canceling any government contracts, from accessing any sensitive data, and from asserting control over any agency. So this court case really is all-encompassing right now, but the most interesting part, I find, is that the judge overseeing this case is Judge Tanya Chutkan, who oversaw the January 6th election subversion case in federal court as well. So first and foremost, what are the implications here of Judge Chutkan being the one who was chosen to preside over this litigation?
Yeah, we'll start with the assigned judge, and then we'll talk about this mega injunction. It's like an injunction on steroids that I think a couple of dozen state attorneys general are seeking. But first of all, Tanya Chutkan, I'm sure our viewers will remember all of the conversations we had about D.C. federal court judge Tanya Chutkan, who was the judge assigned to Donald Trump's D.C. election subversion case. The indictment that Jack Smith had a federal grand jury in D.C. hand down for the crimes Donald Trump committed for trying to steal the 2020 election, tried to overturn the expressed will of the American voters who elected Joe Biden. And Donald Trump committed all sorts of crimes, according to the indictment, to try to deny Joe Biden his rightful win and try to steal the office of the presidency for himself. So Judge Chutkan is no nonsense. She is smart. She is aggressive, but she is fair. Now, our viewers may remember I talked about how I used to try murder cases against Judge Chutkan when she was a public defender and I was a homicide prosecutor, and we would do battle in the courts of Washington, D.C. in murder cases. I have enormous respect for both the lawyer she was and the judge she is, not to mention the person she is. So here's the thing. She does not suffer fools, and she would put up with none of Donald Trump's lawyers' shenanigans while she was presiding over that case until, courtesy of the horrific presidential immunity ruling by the Supreme Court, the case ended up going away against Donald Trump. It was dismissed by Jack Smith ultimately. But here's the thing. Some people may say, well, she was really giving Donald Trump's lawyers a hard time when she was presiding over the election subversion case. And that's true. She was doing it appropriately, given the weakness of some of the arguments being offered by Donald Trump's lawyers. But let me tell you, she will not hold a grudge. She will not prejudge the injunction that is now being sought by the state attorneys general. She will not prejudge the lawyers who are representing Donald Trump in a sense, because it's his Department of Justice and his, special employee, Elon Musk, who's going in and out of government agencies doing Lord knows what. What she will do is she will look at the facts, she will apply the law, and she will call it exactly as she believes she should call it in accordance with the facts and the law. But the good news is she will not bend the knee to anyone because of who they are or what they might threaten her with. And the reason I say that, Brian, is because Donald Trump was forever, posting all sorts of dangerous calls to action, let's put it, of his supporters. And what happened? Well, Judge Chutkan's home got swatted. In other words, false police reports were called in after Donald Trump posted his displeasure with Tanya Chutkan. False police reports got called in saying there was some horrible, violent incident that had unfolded at Judge Chutkan's home, which was an absolute lie, but it endangered the judge and her entire family. She will not be dissuaded. She will continue to do the right thing and make the right decisions in this request for injunctive relief, trying to put a stop to what Musk is doing inside our federal government agencies.
Now, in terms of the case itself, this really is the one that will have massive implications for every other agency. Is that correct?
Yeah, it will. I mean, this really is like injunctive relief on steroids because it is broad, it is sweeping, it is almost all-encompassing trying to put a stop to wrongful terminations, to wrongfully accessing government agencies, including individuals' PII, personal identifying information. So, and here's the interesting thing, and it goes back to what we were just talking about regarding Judge Chutkan. When this first came up for a hearing a day or two ago, Judge Chutkan said, wait a minute. This is a very broad, sweeping, all-encompassing request for a restraining order. Essentially, Judge Chutkan said, you want me to stop the federal government from doing business entirely? Is that what you're asking me? And what she did was she gave the states who were seeking this injunctive relief, this stop to what Musk and Trump were doing, about 24 hours and said, you know what? Give me a more narrowly tailored requested restraining order. Tell me exactly what you want me to do and why you think I should do it. File that with me by 5 p.m. on Saturday, because Tanya Chutkan tends to work 7 days a week, and I will consider it. So that's where we are right now. Apparently, they have filed this modified, more narrowly tailored request for a restraining order for injunctive relief, and now we're waiting to see what Judge Chutkan might do with it. And you mentioned the word precedent, Brian. Let's assume that Judge Chutkan says, you know what, this second modified request for an injunction passes on both the facts and the law, and I will issue it. That doesn't really set precedent, at least not legal precedent, but it sets what I often refer to as atmospheric precedent. Precedent only gets set by appeals courts. And what I can promise you is if Judge Chutkan grants this modified restraining order or injunctive relief, you can bet the Department of Justice, Trump and company, will try to run right up to the appeals court, and I'm sure they will hope to bubble this thing all the way up to Donald Trump's Supreme Court, at least the radical right-wing bloc of the Supreme Court. But it will be an important atmospheric ruling if Judge Chutkan says, yes, I find there's adequate evidence to put an immediate stop, a temporary but immediate stop to what Trump and Musk are trying to do to the federal government.
Does it surprise you that the federal government didn't try to issue some motion to recuse for Judge Chutkan, considering the fact that she presided over the election subversion case?
It doesn't. It doesn't at all. And here's why. When cases come into federal court, there is actually a rule that provides that related cases, if they end up arbitrarily being assigned to other judges, should be consolidated with one judge who has institutional information about any cases that might be related. Now, I'm not saying that the Trump J6 case is necessarily related to the...
Well, Glenn, I mean, they both include either a defendant or a respondent who is perfectly content to completely subvert the law for his own personal gain. So in a way, they are not dissimilar.
Oh, practically speaking, they're related. It all involves Donald Trump and his, flunkies and sycophants and lapdogs trying to do things that are potentially unlawful, so they're related in that way. But you know what? I wasn't at all surprised that we didn't see a motion to recuse. Why? Because there is nothing Judge Chutkan did in presiding over Trump's earlier case that was inappropriate, or that an appellate court said, you know what, Judge? You abused your discretion against Donald Trump. Mind you, remember how Judge Aileen Cannon down in Florida had an appeals court multiple times saying, hey, Judge Cannon, you abused your discretion in favor of Donald Trump. There's absolutely no hint that Judge Chutkan has abused her discretion or done anything wrong when presiding over Donald Trump's criminal case or now presiding over the state's request for injunctive relief.
All right. Well, obviously, a lot to follow along here with this case in Judge Chutkan's courtroom as it relates to really one that will have major ramifications on Elon and Trump's ability to shut down these agencies, fire these agency officials, and really insert the power that Trump has decided to imbue DOGE with. So we'll continue to follow along with this. For everybody watching right now, if you want to follow along, please make sure to subscribe. The links to both of our channels are right here on the screen. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.